in Guyana, when I was challenged by the Pandits about the knowledge that the Brahma Kumaris were teaching, my perspective to them was that it's important to understand the actual teachings of the Gita and to be able to explain them and teach them to others and to practice them in one's own life. And so I took up the concept of Manmanabhav, the essence of the Gita, to be able to focus the mind on God and remember God, and the fact that God has described himself in the Gita as being incorporeal, as being the one who lives in the place beyond the sun, moon and stars. So I was picking up certain aspects of the Gita and explaining them to the Pandits. And so my point to them was that the reason why people are not following the teachings of the Gita is because they haven't understood who is the sermonizer of the Gita. And this was my main point. And that when we know ourselves to be souls, and when we know God to be the supreme, the incorporeal, then through that connection with God, we're able to understand karma philosophy and do what it is we need to do in one's own life. And so I took up the concept of meditation first and foremost, and then secondly, the concept of course, within meditation, knowing the self and God, but then secondly, understanding the concept of karma philosophy and being able to have the power to do that which was good karma. And I think that what really allowed the Pandits to start giving us the freedom to stay on in Guyana and then be able to continue to teach Baba's knowledge was the fact that we told them the young people in fact in one particular school, Berbice High School, which was like the flagship school of the Hindu religion, that the young people there had asked us many questions to which the Pandits had never been able to give them an answer. And so we were telling the Pandits that, well, you haven't done your job of teaching young people, and so you should be grateful that sisters have come all the way from India to be able to share the teachings of the Gita and be able to explain things to young people. My point to them was that if you don't offer an explanation to young people who have an education, they're going to reject anything, because when there's an educated mind and questions are asked, then answers are definitely needed. But it was these two things we took up, especially the subject of meditation and then secondly the subject of karma. And so the Pandits began to nod their heads, and the main Pandit of course was a friend of the family, and so he, at the end of, after my explanation, then looked around to the other Pandits and said, well, does anybody else have any questions? I think the sister has explained to us very clearly what needs to be done, and so I think we have to say that the sisters should continue to do this service, and we are grateful to them for having left their homeland and come here to help us, especially to educate young people. So that made the big difference.